All right, so as Nina said, my name is Lindy Edwards. I'm the Senior Document Specialist, and I help facilitate curation within the IEDB. I've also been working in collaboration with Nina and the rest of the curation team and everybody else involved on this discourse. This is going to be our new solution center. So I'm just going to kind of briefly go through it and take you on a tour of the features and how it works and our impetus for switching centers. So this is going to be launched very soon at the end of this year. The goal is to improve the user experience and make it a little bit more intuitive and easier to find this information. You can search for relevant topics within the knowledge bases. You can access tutorials for tools and other features, learn about upcoming events, and get feedback from the IEDB staff and the user community via the discussions forum. So this is what our old solution center looks like. I believe this was shown earlier. The information is all there, but it is not particularly intuitive. We have this submit a request section right up here if you want to request for help from an IEDB team member. And side by side, you can see Discourse. And already you can see a really big change in terms of how visually striking it is. I find that it looks a lot more pleasing, it's more organized, and it just is much cleaner. Another thing that we've done is reviewed all of the content to make sure that it's accurate on Discourse. And it's a lot easier to find, which is another big thing. So instead of just sort of hunting and pecking throughout the site and being a little confused and eventually finding it, Discourse makes it a lot easier. And we've also pinned relevant articles to the top of their appropriate categories to just facilitate easy access to the most relevant information. And again, you can see any other feedback that IEDB staff or users have given each other in the discussion section, which we're going to go over in just a little bit. So right on the homepage, you'll see that all of our information is sorted into about 7 broad categories, as well as this 8th discussions category right in the corner here. It's immediately visible on the homepage, and it will be accessible from a link on the IEDB itself. Currently, that links to our old Solution Center, but that link is going to be updated very, very soon. So just a quick overview of the content itself on these categories. We have our About the IEDB program, and this is going to be all of your big general information about the program itself, all of our NIAID requirements, any sort of publications that we've released, annual compendia, as well as a guide to just getting started with the IEDB pinned right at the top. Our knowledge bases are really going to be our meat and potatoes of information articles. We have one for the database itself, we have one for the analysis resource, and we have one for CEDAR, which we're going to talk about more in this workshop in day 3. All these articles have been reviewed by IEDB staff members. They are up to date and they are accurate. We also have our announcements and events. This is going to be opportunities to learn more about the IEDB. It's going to be things like booths, conferences, workshops like this one. But the user workshops themselves do have their own category, and that's where we have all the materials and resources from past workshops, video links, slide links, and within a couple weeks, you'll see a post for this particular workshop with all of the presentations that you're going to be hearing within the next few days. Release notes is pretty much just what it says on the tin. It's going to be anything from version 3.6 and onwards, any subsequent releases, and all of our release notes about our analysis resource as well. And then those discussions are going to be used for user questions and feedback. There's several ways to search and access content on Discourse. A pretty simple way is to just click on the relevant category. So here I have the About the IEDB program indicated. If I want to just see what's in there and see if maybe my relevant article is just really easy to find, I can click it. And on the right of the screen here is what that's going to look like from a user once you open it up. You can see this pinned article at the top, getting started with the IEDB, and then you can see a whole lot of other general metadata about the database itself, our expert committee, our social media, a lot of helpful things right there. There's also a search bar feature. So in this example, I'm searching for API, which is very relevant as Kelly just went through our API. I can type that in and a whole bunch of results will pop up. Any articles that are about that, either with that in the title or with that in the content, are going to show up as potentially relevant. And finally, we have tags that are going to be listed under a lot of articles as a way to really broadly categorize them. So for example, in this one, diseases in the IEDB, I have it tagged with query, the results page, the finder, and the home page is things to broadly categorize where exactly, how exactly they would be categorized. So at this point, I'm going to take you on a quick demo of the site itself. And at this point, you should be able to see my browser. Everybody can see that, right?
Yes, it looks good. Thanks, Lindy.
Great, thanks so much. So this is my account as an external user. I have an internal account as well, but I wanted to show what the site looks like from the perspective of somebody who's not an IEDB staff member. Now, you don't need an account to browse all of the data. If you're just looking for a help article, you don't need to log in. You don't need to create an account. It's really simple, and you can just browse through these categories. So if I want to look at the knowledge bases, this is the IEDB database knowledge base. It opens up right here, and I can see that it's divided into two subcategories. I can look at querying the IEDB, or I can look at other information. I'm going to look through this querying the IEDB subcategory, and all of this information pops up. I can open up a relevant article. Let's see, I want to look at this immunome browser article, and I have a nice tutorial explaining how I use this feature. But if I do want to ask a question, I'm going to navigate back to our Discourse landing page right here. That's when I go in my discussions forum, and that's when you would need to open up to set up an account. It's a pretty straightforward process. It's going to be in this top right-hand corner, and you'll have a big blue button that says sign up. So I can open this up right here. There is a guide to using Discourse pinned right here at the top of the discussions section. So if you need help, that information is right there. So let's say I want to ask a question about the API. I want to know how I can export some BCR data. My category is related to database, so I'm going to go ahead and click on database. I'm going to hit new topic, and I'm going to type in my question. So I'm going to go, how do I export BCR data? And I would answer my question right here. It's pretty much right there on the title, so you need to export data. I can do all sorts of formatting right here. It'll also say what my topic is similar to, because so I can say, oh, well, maybe my answer will be in there. I can tag it maybe with exports. You can see various tags that they're offering me that I've already used. And I can also attach any sort of screenshots or uploads as long as they are as large, or excuse me, no larger than 4 megabytes. And that's a really helpful feature if maybe you want to report a bug or you're noticing something that doesn't look right and you want to provide that example. All right, I'm just about out of time. I would hit create topic. I'm not going to do that right here. Let's post it. A moderator would then approve me just to make sure that there's no spam. I'm going to close this out. And I can see in this example here, an IEDB staff member, in this case, me, answered my own question. I provided an answer, and either a user or a staff member can check this solution box if they determine that this was an adequate response. That's going to show up right here. And it'll appear right next to the topic itself in in the discussions forum. And if they feel like that was not sufficient to answer your question, or if you have follow-ups, you can always create a new post and follow up there. So at this point, I'm just going to go right back to the presentation. This is essentially just the demo version of what I was doing live, just in case there were internet issues. So here's again that solutions box, that reply function, and what it's going to look like live. So at this point, Discourse is not linked from the IEDB yet, but it is a live site. You can test it out. You can tour the features. Please feel free to give us any feedback. We are constantly monitoring it, and those links on the IEDB will soon redirect to links on the IEDB Discourse. So that's about all I have. Thank you all so much for your time, and I believe, Nina, it's going to be the next Q&A section.
Yes, thank you so much, Lindy. And it's great to have a new presentation for you all and a new speaker as well. So thank you so much, Lindy, for your debut in the user workshop. And we're just a couple of minutes over, but I think that's so fine. I'll give Lindy some time to look at the Q&A, and then I'd like to invite Randy and Kelly back to the virtual stage to start the section 2 Q&A. So Randy, could you please take the first question?
Yes, something crazy happened. Yes. So, go back. I'm going to read the first question from Nick Hayden. In the search tool, what does blast percent sequence mean? Is it a comparison using amino acid identity or similarity? It is identity to whatever peptide you enter. And yes, the way blast does. And then I know I said when I wanted Kelly to answer. Kelly, are you ready? Is he gone?
Yeah, I'll answer the I lost it. Oh, I don't want to mispronounce the name. So user asked, is there any way to load a peptide list coming from an analysis instead of adding peptides individually to check whether there is records regarding them in the database? Currently, there is no way within the IEDB interface to upload multiple sequences, but this is a circumstance where you would want to probably look into using the API. Within the API, you can put in multiple sequences. You just cannot do blast matches within the API due to limitations on the resources needed to run the blast searches. But you can within the API run multiple sequences through and get your results there. I think there's a couple examples within our documentation of that particular case. That being said, we are looking into expanding the linear sequence search functionality on the website to allow for multiple sequences. This is a really common question. You want to go with the next one, Randy?
And if, I'll go ahead. And Lindy, you can go after me, okay? I have Christine Bowman asked, how do you add or allow for in the results post-translational modifications to linear peptide epitopes? And so when you're on the results page, once you've done a query, in the epitope search box, there's that drop down for modifications. And if you click open that drop down, you'll see the types of modifications we have encountered in literature thus far. And then you can either check one if you're only interested in epitopes that have that modification. Okay, go for it, Lindy.
All right. I just have one. It's first of all, very nice. Thanks for the hard work. So thank you. Is there a list? Is there a link to discuss on the main IED page? We don't have it linked right now, but we will. Currently, there is a link under support in the top right-hand corner that links to our current help desk. Very shortly, that will link to Discuss.
Kelly, you want to go?
Yep, I can go. And an attendee says they use the API, and the problem is the field names in the API are not the same as the downloaded Excel files, and that it causes some confusion and causes some issues. I'm going to actually share my desktop real quick. So this is where the API, the export endpoints would come in handy, because those are direct matches to the exports that you get from the website. So this is the API, and you can see this structure. For example, here you have epitope object type with this funny double underscore here. That converts directly over to epitope object type in the export, which is just a JSON export that I just ran. So you just convert the space dash space to the double underscores. And then what you do is you'd run your query against the search table, use the identifiers from there, which in this case is the epitope ID, structure ID, and then run that against the export tables, and that way you can get exactly what you see on the website out. So I hope that helps.
And I'll take the question from Mary. If we know the CDR3 sequence of a gamma delta T cell and also know the epitope, can we identify the presenting molecule on the APC to the gamma delta TCR? So if that information has been published, you can search by the epitope and see if we have any CDR3s that bind that epitope. And if you know the CDR3 sequence, you can also enter that into the receptor search box. And there we also have those identity match options. So you can look for similar CDR3s if your precise one hasn't been shown. And you can see if we have any data that we found from the literature. And if you know of some data that you think should be in the IEDB, I think we should, I don't know if this was said earlier, and we've missed it somehow, we definitely want to know, and that's what the help topics that Lindy talked about are useful for. Go there and let us know that we missed something, because sometimes CDR3 sequences can be missed from papers. But we definitely have a lot more alpha beta TCR sequences than gamma delta, reflective of the literature. Okay, next.
An attendee asks that they use the API to annotate a panel of peptides, and sometimes they encounter slowness or blockages from the server. We do have limits on the number of queries you can run in a given time. I do not know those off the top of my head, but I'm also showing here, and this is in our help documentation for the API. This shows how to page your results, which is what I would recommend if you're running queries that return a lot of results that slow everything down. Is if it's a lot of data, it by nature limited to 10,000 records per query. So this example shows how you can paginate that data similar to how the website does. That will also speed up the query, and so you can ensure that you're getting the results that you want and that they are correct. But I would also suggest maybe slowing down your results so you're not slowing down your query, to the API, so you're not hammering the database, the API, because we have places in place so we don't get attacked by spam bots that can try to bring down the website.
Okay, I have one last question from Hannah, who asked two questions about positivity. How do we know that a response was positive? High positive, intermediate, low positive, or just know that it's positive at all? And for any data to go into the IEDB, we have to know, we always say whether that particular experiment was positive or negative. And hopefully, most times it's very clear in the paper. If it's not clear in the paper, we will contact authors and ask them to clarify, and very often they will. And the high positive, intermediate, low positive, that depends on the authors making that clear. If within the paper they call out something as being high positive versus low positive, then we capture it. And we do have some criteria for MHC binding assays for some very specific cases, and that information is actually in the curation manual, which is online, as Alex mentioned, and you can find it in the Learn More section. And then I would lastly just say that most of the data is classified as just positive or negative. It's more, a quirk to put a positive, high, or low based on authors making that very explicit in their paper and important for their conclusions. And that's it for my questions. I think Kelly has one more.
Yep, I have a follow-up of the API export tables. They can be found directly in the export, or in the API, sorry. They're just additional endpoints. Instead of the _search endpoint that you normally would hit, you can go directly to the whatever the endpoint is _export instead, and that will link directly to, match up directly to the example that you would have with from the IEDB website, which is here. But I also would say in the same help documentation, we have our list of all of our endpoints here with all the exports. And if you are a power user, I would suggest looking into this resource embedding example, and maybe look at the example that I have in my presentation that I had to kind of go through pretty quickly. It allows you to join the search table, the search endpoint, and the export endpoint into one API call, and you can select exactly what you want to return from the export endpoint, exactly what you want, while doing your filters on the search, which is really powerful, but it's a little more complex. So I would suggest looking into doing that, because that's going to get you the most bang for your buck and the most power out of the API.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Randy, Kelly, and Lindy. We are out of questions and just about out of time as well. So thank you all so much. And that brings us to the end of section 2 and into our break. So as a quick recap, we spent the first section giving an overview of the database and then jumping straight into a research example with Alex and Alba respectively. And then section 2 really took a deep dive into the features, as Randy took you through the query features, Kelly then took you through how to download the data, and then Lindy showed you the newest project with how we've tried to make our help more accessible to you and easily searchable through the Discourse platform. But then the next section, section 3, we'll take a bit of a pivot and look at the analysis resource as an overview and then the analysis tools. So that sets us up for day 2.